So what we want to do is cultivate a capacity for kindness. So, close your eyes. Take a few moments to breathe in and breathe out. Muted? Thank you, all the folks in chat, for explaining that this is not a bonus stream or anything. We're just streaming late today. We had an event with Discord. So we were on a panel with Discord. That was really awesome. So we had to push back stream a little bit today. So thank you all very much for showing up. Hopefully we get to tap into an audience that we don't usually get to talk to because we're a little bit later today. So we're starting stream 3 hours later. So always fun to do afternoon streams. I don't know if y'all remember, but back in the day in 2020, we used to start streaming at like 5 p.m. or something. So I would like go to work 6 p.m. and I'd stream from like 6 to 8 after like working a full day. So thankfully now this is part of my job, which is really nice. It's a fun job to have, hanging out with chat. But welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I am a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss today on stream is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. If you all have a medical concern or question, mental health concern or question, please go see a licensed professional. So we're on week 2 of Right in the Feels. And so let's talk about that, and then we're going to move to call-ins. But this is really cool. So we've got a bunch of people who have logged emotions. So right now we are doing our, we're focusing on identifying thoughts and feelings. So our reflection corner will be opening up soon, and then we'll be going into empathy labs. So doing some skills building about understanding your emotions and stuff. So let's see what our community is feeling. So the cool thing is that, we're collecting some data on this, and we're going to see what we can learn. But I don't think we're doing like a study or anything. So it's all just sort of de-identified and stuff. But in terms of the number of submissions, so let's see. So it seems like anxiety is number 1 with 156 people clocking in. 135 for tired. And look at this. Coming in at number 3 is content. 122 people are content, which is awesome, right? So I think we're starting to discover that, There's people who are content, people who are stressed. So stressed is number 4 at 100. Optimistic is number 3, which is kind of wild, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is optimistic. 6 is 83 people feel peaceful. So that's pretty good. Like out of the top 6, we've got 3, we've got content, optimistic, and peaceful, which is wild, right next to stressed, tired, and anxious. So where can you start to participate? I think just do a command for feels. Yeah. And y'all can join in. Thanks, Tech Teller. But I think that's just shows, like that's what this community is about. Like we're about helping people and understand yourselves a little bit, understand what you're experiencing, and help people try to move towards, contentment and peace. Yes, that's pretty cool. And thank you all very much for participating so far. We'll continue to share information as we kind of collect it about how people are doing with the events and stuff like that. And we've got a couple of other, empathy related, emotion related lectures and stuff in the pipeline. I think today, actually, we're going to be doing a call-in stream that's actually based off of our lecture on Monday. So I don't know if y'all caught that, but on Monday we did a lecture about alexithymia. And today we're going to be talking with people from our community about which emotions they struggle with the most. So let's hop in. I'm going to try to start on time today and hopefully end on time today. Bup. So let's go. We're ready, Tech Teller.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Hold on, let me adjust your audio for a second. Just because you sound a little bit quiet. Can you count to 10 for me?
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Perfect. And welcome. What do you go by, my friend?
I go by Mangustin.
Mungustin?
Yes.
Okay. And Mungustin, what's the emotion that you struggle with the most?
It's a plethora of emotions, I would say.
Okay.
It can range from anything, like anger, sadness, happiness sometimes, I guess.
You struggle with happiness?
I mean, not that I struggle, but it can be really intense. But that's mostly when I'm having that difficulty when I'm having like anger or sadness, because it can be prolonged throughout the day. And yeah.
Interesting. So can you tell me a little bit about, when you say you kind of struggle with these emotions, what does that mean, struggle, to you?
I mean that if the feeling overwhelms me, like I can't shake it off. It keeps staying for like 2 hours. Well, it depends sometimes, but it usually kind of stays for long.
And what's that been like for you to have emotions that feel, so I'm kind of hearing that it's not a particular emotion, but that emotions feel pretty overwhelming for you at times.
Yes, that is correct.
And how long has that been going on?
Oh, well, hmm, I, I'm not really sure. I would say it's been going on for since I was young.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, definitely.
And what's that like to have overwhelming emotions?
Uh, well, I think the thing that annoys me the most is like it can influence my judgment a bit too much. Like I can't think clearly. Let's say like uh, I'm just completely overwhelmed sometimes by the feelings.
Can you, was there something in particular that you wanted to talk about today?
Not something in particular. No.
So then, can I ask you just a couple of questions about some of the stuff that you've shared so far? Like, you say that your emotions interfere with your judgment. Is it okay if we talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
And so, when you say they interfere with your judgment, what do you mean? Like, can you give me an example or
But
tell me a story?
yes, yes, I can. Yes. So like yesterday when I was at work, um, I was 3 or 4 months ago. My boss told me that I can raise your pay, and then I waited. I saw that it doesn't happen, so I was like, okay, maybe I should ask, see what's going on. Uh, and like the head chef I work with, he told me, well, it's because you're not performing well enough. Okay, that's fair. But I would have liked to be told that no in advance that hey, I can't really raise your pay because you're not performing well enough. Where it just like if I didn't ask, yeah, I wouldn't have been told this, and it kind of pissed me off in a way. Uh, I um, Also the fact that I wasn't, because I know why I'm not performing well enough. I'm not performing well enough because I have a hard time focusing. Just my mind just wanders. It's really kind of frustrating sometimes, I would say. And I guess I was angrier more on the fact that I can't focus, other than the fact that hey, I didn't get my raise.
Hmm. So, and how did that? Did something? I don't. I'm not hearing anything about impaired judgment there. So what? Just let.
Yes. So in my mind, uh, I was like, I could. I was thinking in a way rationally about it, but off of me was like I was so angry, like I just wanted to like yell at somebody or something, and it just kept going on in my head for like 6 hours or something. It took me really a long time to calm off. Like the head chef came to me and hey, why what's up with you? And I was like, this is pissing me off. And then I kind of calmed down after
Did you tell him this is
discussing.
pissing me off?
Yeah, because usually when somebody asks me if you know, how I'm feeling or how I'm doing, I would say like I'm fine. Just like a default response. And I struggle really hard to actually be honest and say what's actually bothering me. And then maybe because I don't say it, I have a hard time making like a genuine connection with people. Um, yeah.
And what makes it so? What happened when you told the head chef that you were upset about what they were telling you?
Uh, well, he kind of told me about his experience. He was really nice about it. He was like, this happened to me. I wasn't the fastest when I started out. Uh, if something bothers you, you can tell me. We're like friends here. You can consider me. Don't consider me like a strict boss or uh, don't consider me like the boss. I'm kind of like your friend here. So take it like that. And I understand that. It's just really hard to uh, be honest when something is bothering me. It's like I don't wanna uh, upset people, or I don't wanna bother them with my problems. I think that's the main reason. So that's why I don't express it.
Okay. So let me. So how did you when the chef was like, "Hey, I want you to tell me about this kind of stuff. We're kind of like friends here." How did you feel after that?
I've definitely I felt a bit more relieved. Uh, I was still a bit upset about it, but it was a bit better. Though it was really hard for me to like actually say, uh, like
Yeah.
if I didn't do the feels thing where I open, I write my feelings. I don't think I would have been able. I would just give him a reason, but not the exact reason why why I'm upset.
Okay.
So I think that helped a lot.
Okay. Now you're saying so, Mangustin. You're saying I felt a bit better. I still felt a bit angry. So I'm trying to understand when you say a bit, and it took you a little while to calm down. So I'm gonna kind of ask about that because in my mind, if you feel a bit better, you shouldn't still feel a bit angry. If you feel a bit better, you should feel very angry, right? So you're using the words a bit and a little in a way that sound kind of confusing to me. I mean, maybe I'm not saying that your feelings are wrong. It's just are you do you think you're using the right words there, or is that kind of an automatic response?
Um, but I can say I felt a lot better after telling him what's bothering me. I did feel quite quite a bit better,
Quite a bit
but
better.
yeah, quite a bit better. But in a way, I was still upset about it, though I don't think I was. It was constantly bothering me in my mind as much.
Okay. And so and it sounds like you have trouble communicating your feelings to people because you're afraid of burdening them.
Yeah, and also uh, I have a hard time communicating them if there's like a group of people. I don't think I can do it. Like if it's one on one, yeah, maybe I can. But if it's like a group of people, I can.
So were you concerned about burdening the chef this time when you shared your feelings?
I don't think so. I was just um it was just hard for me to express them.
Okay.
That was my obstacle.
So, Mangustin, let me ask you a question. When you feel worried about burdening people, how much of that thinking is if I can't communicate my emotions, like I'm going to give them useless information, that it's then going to be like their responsibility to kind of figure it out. And that's not really fair to them. I should be able to communicate better.
I'm
So,
sorry. What was the
yeah,
question
sorry, that
again?
was a terrible question. So sometimes when we feel like burdening people, or sorry, when we feel like I don't want to burden you, but part of that burden is that if I can't communicate clearly, it's hard for other people to like understand and figure out what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
that's a burden, right?
Is it like a burden for them?
Yeah,
I
like
think
do
it
you feel
is.
like you're burdening you're they have to figure out how you're feeling.
Yeah, if I look from their perspective, it's quite confusing, quite hard.
Okay? So do you think that you handled the situation well?
Mm, maybe not in the beginning. Maybe I should have been honest about it and not be upset about it for an extended period of time.
Well, what do you think helped you become less upset?
Mm, expressing it.
Okay. And how does that work? What do you how does that help you feel better?
Uh, um, expressing my emotions and being honest, I guess. I think being honest around the the people around me, maybe.
Is
Uh,
that what was it like to share the way that you felt? Were you afraid of how the chef was going to respond?
No, I was more, I was a bit, I found it really difficult to say it. Like my mind, in a way, maybe wanted to say something that may be related, but it's not the exact issue.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
but
yeah,
you, it sounds like whatever you said was well received, even
yes,
if you
yes,
didn't get it 100% right.
yes. So in this particular case, I think I was completely honest.
Okay. And what, and you said something about you did some activity before you talked to this person?
Oh, yeah, I was just working in the kitchen alongside him.
But did you, I thought you said something like you tried something about journaling your feelings or something?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I meant that the things you guys posted a few days ago with writing the feels and journaling my feelings there. And I thought I should apply this in my day to day. So I decided that hey, I should express my feelings in front of him.
Okay. So, Mangustin, is it okay if I just like try to summarize what I heard from you, and I think a couple of takeaway points from people who are listening, and then if you
Yes,
have
please.
anything you want to add or ask questions, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing is that sometimes we experience a lot of emotion, and the emotion can feel very, very overwhelming. And especially when emotions feel very overwhelming, they can be very hard to describe or communicate or even understand. And you've seen that when you get overwhelmed by your emotions, that it starts to impair your judgment. And when it impairs your judgment, you start to like maybe make mistakes. And then you kind of don't know how to communicate. You don't really know how to reach out for help. And so it's almost like the emotions bounce around inside you for a very long time,
Yes, they do bounce around,
right? And so for
around a lot.
hours, you'll be upset. And you're
Yeah.
afraid, I mean, maybe afraid is the wrong word, but you're hesitant to share these kinds of things with other people because you kind of don't want to burden them. And it's so confusing in here. Like, how are you, like, how can someone even help with that? Does that make sense? Like, if you don't really
Yeah.
know, like,
It
if I come up to you, Mungustin, and I say, hey, I'm upset, and you're like, what are you upset about? I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And then it's like, how are you supposed to help me with that?
that's actually my response sometimes.
Right? And like, you're like, I don't even know how to ask people for help because how are they supposed to help with this mess of emotions that even I don't understand? And then if they ask me questions, like, I'm not going to know how to answer them. Like, what upsets you? I don't know, all kinds of crap. Right? So
Yeah.
that's really common. The other thing, but I think this is really important, that what you sort of discovered is that vocalizing your emotions, especially, and this is kind of like, I think really you should give yourself a pat on the back because you're in a situation where you have a superior and you're angry about something that they told you. And usually in that kind of situation, people are even less, they don't want to talk to their superior because it's kind of like there's a power dynamic there, right? Where if the superior tells me something, I'm not allowed to be upset at that because they're the boss and I have to listen to them. But you were able to communicate how you were frustrated, and something really cool happened, which is that the chef was like actually supportive of you. And even though you were bringing a negative emotion to this person, they didn't get upset with you for bringing a negative emotion. They heard what you had to say and actually like encouraged you to treat them like a friend and told you that, gave you some words of encouragement, which is like pretty awesome. Because I think a lot of times when we have negative emotions, we're very scared to share them, even with our friends, and especially with like in work situations where we don't want to tell the boss that we're angry. And I think the key thing that I'm sort of hearing from you is that you spent some time actually writing out your feelings, which helped you understand them. And I suspect this is where I'm going to kind of make some assumptions that, when you kind of feel guilty for talking to people about your emotions and burdening them, I think part of the reason you feel that way is because people haven't been able to help you in the past, or they haven't responded well. Is that true?
It is
So
true.
can you tell me a story about that? Like a time where you tried to share something with someone and what happened?
Yeah, actually, now now that I remember, um, I wanted like quite a few years ago to start drawing, and I was I procrastinate a lot, and I just even now maybe, but back then I don't know where to start, and I was kind of like stressed about it because I really wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure where to start. So I guess I just talked with some people online, and I don't remember the exact conversation, but somebody like told me to go see a psychiatrist, and at that time I was like, I'm having this issue, but I already have to like seek out professional help for this small of a problem. And they felt like I don't know. They seemed like they were overwhelmed by me.
Yeah.
And
So if they said go see a psychiatrist, it makes you feel like this problem is like too big for them to handle, right?
uh, well, I felt like it wasn't that big of a problem. It just their response felt like it had no empathy or like
Yeah.
sympathy to it.
So I
And
yeah, keep going.
uh, I, yeah, I just had to say like really hit me like a hammer. Um, yeah.
So it sounds like in the past the way that you've communicated has resulted in people not responding in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm having a hard time remembering exact moments, but I do feel like this is a concrete one that did happen. Maybe more happened, but I'm not remembering them right
Yeah,
now.
that's okay. So I think that this is what I'd kind of say. So I think the key takeaway that when I listen to you is, so the first thing is that emotions can bounce around inside you and be really overwhelming and affect you for a very long period of time unless you deal with them in some way. So sometimes we deal with them by like unhealthy coping mechanisms like playing video games or using drugs. We can also do healthy things like maybe exercise or meditate or journal or whatever. But a really important thing that we can do is talk to other people about our emotions. And when we talk to them, it can help us feel better. But the other cool thing is that we can actually improve our relationships, either at work or like friendships or romantic relationships, by vocalizing our feelings. The challenge is that most of us are not taught how to vocalize our feelings, how to understand our feelings. So, since we're not taught that, when we try to communicate our feelings to other people, they respond in ways that are kind of hurtful. And we kind of feel like, you know, this isn't really working. I'm burdening other people. It's not helping at all. And so I think the key thing that I really heard from you is that by spending some time actually like journaling and understanding your feelings, you were then able to communicate things to the chef that allowed them to respond to you in kind of a positive way, helped you kind of feel better. And it sounds like things are actually a little bit better at work.
Yes.
So I think that's fantastic, dude. I think that's like literally why we do all this stuff. Is to
Yeah. I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt.
go ahead.
Uh, yeah, I was really happy when I saw that video, and like I listened to it twice. Just the thought of uh, expressing my feelings or journaling them, it was so enticing.
Yeah,
I really want. Yeah.
Fantastic, dude. So what I would recommend to you is just keep doing that. So like this is what we kind of find is I know it sounds kind of weird, but even problems like procrastination can be due to or influenced by inability to regulate our emotions. So like when we're procrastinating, like we want to do something, but we're not really able to do it. And sometimes like what we use to procrastinate. So let's say I procrastinate by watching YouTube or Twitch. And when I procrastinate, what that actually does, when I watch YouTube or Twitch, what it actually does is destroys my motivation, but soothes my emotions. Because when you watch like stuff on the internet and like look at memes and stuff, you kind of get some dopamine, you kind of like you forget about all the problems in your life and stuff like that. But the problem is it destroys your motivation. So in order to cope with our negative emotions, we sacrifice our motivation. And what that looks like is procrastination. And so I'd strongly encourage you to keep on understanding your emotions. I don't think it's a bad idea for you to get a clinical evaluation, by the way, because some of the stuff that, there's a new subtype of ADHD that people are thinking about. It's not official yet, but some people have hypothesized that there's an emotional dysregulation subtype of ADHD. Now, I have no idea whether you have ADHD or not. It's not really my job to do a diagnostic evaluation on you, but you mentioned that you have difficulty with focus and that you feel a lot of really intense emotions. And sometimes people with ADHD can experience both of those things. So it's not a bad idea to get checked out for something like that.
Okay.
How does it feel if I say something like that?
It feels all right.
Yeah. I think that everything else, I'm not, like I said, I can't say if you have ADHD or not, but I think everything else still applies. And that's really the stuff that I feel confident about, which is that the more you understand your emotions, the more your communication will improve. The more your communication improves, the more your relationships will improve. And you even said that sometimes it's hard to connect with other people because you can't show them or vocalize your emotions. So what they kind of get is like almost like a robotic or blurry version of Mangustin, right? Like they don't get to see the real you. It's all blurry because you don't know how to communicate like what you're feeling and stuff. And then it's hard to form connection. So I think if you just keep doing what you're doing, like I'm optimistic for you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions before we wrap up?
Well, I was wondering, like, would it be that my my difficulty of focusing on something would be related to not expressing my feelings, or like as they build up a lot, because it's really easy to like lay back, watch read some memes and forget about troubles. But when you gotta focus on something with your mind, to be there in the present, like those problems can come up back to you. And,
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think your focus has to do with a lot of emotion on the inside, or difficulty with focus has a lot to do with emotions on the inside?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So if the answer to your question, if you think it's definitely, I completely agree. I think you're looking for confirmation. I'm happy to provide it. I think it's really important to remember that if we just think about it, right, when we're angry, it's very hard to focus on things that we're not angry about, or like anger causes hyperfocus, but we lose control of it. So there's even evidence that shows that when we have, do you know what adrenaline is?
Yeah.
So when we normally have, if you look at our field of vision, which is what we can see, we can kind of see 180 degrees around us. So like even if you wave your arms by the sides of your head, you can kind of see them moving with your eyes. But when we have adrenaline going through our body, We can't see stuff on the side. All we can see is a 30-degree window in front of us. So we become hyper-focused in one direction when we have adrenaline. When we feel angry, we tend to release adrenaline. And the same thing happens with our thoughts. Our thoughts become very, very obsessive on one area when we feel angry, and we can't think about other things. That's the experience of anger. And so if you have difficulty focusing, emotions have a lot to do with that. And usually a tranquil mind can focus the best. So I think I completely agree with what you're saying, which is emotions can absolutely interfere with focus. And that's also one of the reasons why we see in that this new potential subtype of ADHD an impairment of focus that is coupled with emotional dysregulation.
I want to say that I hope I'm saying it correctly. The Sri Lanka, the focusing exercise, the one with the lotuses. I did it. I did it for like a few weeks, and I could like feel an improvement in my focus. Like I was more calm.
Great.
Or more. Yeah.
That's why we teach it. Mangus, then it sounds like you're doing a lot of stuff right, dude.
Thank you.
You just keep walking your journey, man.
Thank you. I will.
Take care, my friend.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Adios. All right. I don't think we need... I think we sort of did our summary while we were talking to him, just to make sure we were on the same page. So I think we can just move on.
Ready for next?
Yeah, let's go. GG, go next.
Howdy.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Let me turn you up a little bit. Count to 10 for me, buddy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect. And what do you go by, friend?
You can call me Nick.
Nick. Nice to meet you, Nick.
Yeah. You as well?
And so what kind of emotions are you struggling with nowadays?
Oh, a big one for me is shame.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. I find my shame comes a lot from expectations, a lot of shoulds. A lot of, someone in your place should be this, should do that, should have this, stuff like that.
Okay. And what kind of stuff should you do, should you have? Where should you be right now?
A big one I feel like has to do with, in the West at least, since I'm in the United States, job status, money, relationship stuff. You've got the ideal of, a man of such and such age should have this under his kingdom. And then you look at yourself and you're like, should I have that?
Nick, is it okay if I ask you some details about where you are versus where you should be?
Sure.
So, you said job status, relationship, a man of a certain age. So what is the... You don't have to give us your exact age, but what's like the ballpark of like, a man of what age? What are we talking about? Are we talking about like 45, 25, 19?
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm 28, so late 20s.
And tell me what should a man of 28 what should their life be like? A man of 28.
Right. In the lens that I see, a man of 28 should be maybe a little further along in the career than I tend to be. I tend to stay more towards the bottom. Maybe have a bit of a nest egg by now. Maybe even be married by now.
And when you say should be further along, like what does that look like to you?
I guess my current position, I'm still in what would be considered entry, I guess.
Okay.
I've been in it for a while and I'm good at what I do, but it's not, the barrier for entry is low. So at least where I feel like I should be, or at least what I'm expected to be, is more of an intermediate, maybe even like lower management. Just something a bit for the time I've been on Earth, something more to show.
And you're still entry level, and you said the barrier of entry is low. Help me understand why you made that statement.
I yeah, I guess I feel yeah.
Thought
I
you could
feel
slip
like
that
it
one
doesn't
past,
take
did you,
much.
Nick?
Yeah, really. I feel like it doesn't take much to do a lot of the things I do and have done in past jobs.
What?
Um,
So tell me about. I'm going to be a bit transparent here, but tell me about. Can you share some more details about how you devalue your accomplishments?
oof, this
Because that's what
guy.
we're talking about, right?
You're right.
So tell me, what does your
Yeah.
what does your mind say about?
My mind says, "Oh, you," because you're definitely right. I am devaluing myself, but I recognize
Yep.
this often, and I will say to myself, "No, hey, look, you're doing it," but at the
Do
same
you believe
time, you
that?
get this knife of shame in your side that's like, "Why aren't you more?"
Yeah. So what are the accomplishments that you devalue? So entry level position. What you say is it's easy to get into. Anyone could do it. What else?
Oh, this is gonna make me sound a bit like a doofus because when you say it out
Look
loud,
at
you
what you just did.
realize,
What did you do? Hold on.
oh, I devalued my devaluations.
Yeah. Right. So by the way, when I laugh, Nick, I just want to check in with you. And you're like,
No,
how does it feel?
I'm on the same.
How does it feel to you when I laugh?
It is funny in a way.
Okay. Do you feel like I am devaluing you?
No,
Okay.
I think in a way you are calling me out.
Okay. I am doing that. So but I mean I don't
But no, I'm
I don't blame you for devaluing yourself.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Help me understand that.
That it's certainly common because I've met a lot of people that do the same thing, come to think of it. And when I'm on the other side of the coin, I'm in your position where it's don't devalue yourself.
Yep. So I've got a weird question for you, Nick.
Sure.
Why do I think you devalue yourself?
Oh,
It's a hard question. I'm asking you to read my mind and be psychic.
that's what I was about to answer with. Yeah.
Yep. I acknowledge that I'm giving you a very difficult question. Just what comes to your mind? What do you think I think? Why do people devalue themselves?
Wow, I that's a good point because I can't really think of why I do it
Why
necessarily.
do other people do it?
I guess. Well, I honestly I'm not too sure I know how to answer that one.
Okay, that's totally fine. Thank you for trying. I really appreciate it.
I'm curious at your thoughts though.
Yeah, so I think that I think you devalue yourself because, and it helps me. Even your answer, I think, helped me a lot. I think you devalue yourself because you were taught to.
Oh. Yeah, maybe.
Help me understand the maybe.
I I guess a little backstory is warranted there. Um, raised by a single mother of two, me being one of the two. I was told quite a lot because she never got too far either in her career until recently. But I was told that almost in a way too, if you expect low, it'll always go well, and that there's a good chance I'm not gonna No, I'm just saying it now makes sense. A good chance that I'm not quite gonna quote unquote get anywhere, but not in a negative way, I guess.
Yeah. Can you tell me a story about that? Like, I'd love to hear, like, what were the circumstances when you were told that, if something comes to mind, because this sounds like
Yeah,
it
no.
was more.
One just got dredged up. Yeah. College. I struggled a lot through university, with grades, and I sort of got the talk that, as long as I pass, it's okay because you got the degree, and that, with whatever degree, there's a certain limit to what income statistically those degrees make or what have you, and that you're not going to make much, but it'll be fine. And I just feel like now, in hindsight, I feel like those "it'll be fines" weren't what I took home. It was, I'm not going to make much.
What do you think about that?
Almost like I was taught that my lot is low in life.
Are there other ways that you were taught that?
Well, I guess growing up, not exactly dirt poor, but lower than middle, sort of had me accept a certain standard, and that you only deserve so much.
And how much do you deserve, Nick?
Well, ain't that just the question? I don't know. I like to think enough, but then that in itself is just as wishy-washy as anything else.
Would you say you live up to expectations?
I would say in some ways yes, but some no, I guess.
What are the ways in which you live up to expectations? Help me understand the yes and the no.
I seem, I've done fine relationship wise. I've got friends and a romantic relationship, and I have a place over my head, which for a lot of my peers isn't the easiest feat in today's age to, have a home. But
Are you,
other than that,
and what are the ways in which you don't live up to expectations?
Aside from the career aspect, it's a lot of maybe personal things like I exercise, for health reasons, but I still get the feeling that I, can't lift as much as others, even though it really shouldn't matter.
Well, I mean, I imagine that's true.
Right?
I'm sure there's a 28-year-old out there who can lift more than you can.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is, but I don't know. I guess I've always felt like I'm on the, if there was a number 5 scale of, 1 being you're bad at something, 5 being you're great at something, I've always been sort of people see me as like a 2.
People see you as a 2, or you see you as a 2?
I guess one led to the other.
Which one came first?
Well, yeah. I'd like to think that the people came first, but more often than not, it's the me.
Interesting, because what I'm actually hearing is a convincing argument that your mom kind of was like, there are 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, my son, and I love you, but you're a 2.
Yes, you've been born as a 2. Yeah.
I'm not trying to bash your mom, by the way.
No, no, no. The metaphor is accurate. I'm sure she said it in her own words, but there was a clear, this is the level of person we're at and that we've been. This is the level of person that you can probably expect to be in the future.
And how do you think she came to believe that?
I would have to imagine her own experiences before me.
And anything that you're kind of aware of that would have had her start to believe that way about herself?
Yeah, actually. My father is a practicing OBGYN gynecologist. So I guess, level of income and lifestyle is massively different. Which he would be, I guess, back to our metaphor, he would be more of a 4 to 5.
Was
And then
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, sorry.
Nope, keep going.
Well, I was gonna say, and then I guess when I was tiny, way before I knew anything, they got divorced, but I went with my mother. So now I'm thinking that would probably have cemented the belief that, okay, we're the 2s here, and he's off being a 5.
And was your father active in your life?
No. No.
Do you know if your father has other children or other relationships?
Through marriage. But they've always been older. I think by the time that they entered the scene, they were adults.
Okay.
I think that whole side of the family seemed to be, now that I'm thinking back on it, more of an upper 4 to 5.
What do you think about that?
Give me a lot to think about, Doc. Yeah. I guess, I have to think about that one for a time.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm wondering, though, how would you shake that sort of thing?
great question. So let me ask you a couple more questions, if that's okay, Nick.
Of course.
So first of all, I just want to commend you, dude, for being incredibly contemplative. I think you're quite self-reflective. So you're able to pick up and catch things about your own thought process. I don't think you're a 2 at all.
Well, thank you.
I think that... So let's just understand this for a second, okay? So I'm not... honestly, if I thought you were a 2, like, I just wouldn't say anything, right?
Awkward silence, yeah.
Right? I would have just picked something else. But to be honest, let's think through this, okay? So a man at 28 should be what? Like, do you feel like you're a proud man, Nick?
I'd like to say at my best, yes.
Okay.
But often, no.
And what keeps you from being proud of yourself?
I guess. So I've actually thought of this one before myself. And the hierarchy of needs came into play. And our talk here is just sort of cementing the fact that it might be, I think pure respect is one.
Okay. So.
And self-esteem.
Sure. So I think, so how do we shake this? It's
right.
A great thought. So I want to start by kind of commending you for wanting to shake it and recognizing that, like, I don't know how to say this, but you can't want to shake it without some sense of entitlement that you're greater than a 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I think that there's a part of you that recognizes that the way that you feel about yourself is like not actually accurate. And that part of you is
Yes.
also the same part of you that can catch the devaluing so quickly. Because
Right,
that's not,
yeah.
when it's really you, you can't see the devaluing. But you're actually like pretty good at catching it.
Thank you.
How does it feel when I compliment you?
Good, because it's well, recognition of hard work that I put in there.
Okay, so let me ask you. This is going to be kind of weird. I gotta be honest, Nick. I'm walking kind of a tightrope here, which is that the more competent you appear to be, the more I'm increasing the speed of the fastballs and curveballs.
Right.
Okay. So I'm afraid that I'm setting you up to fail. So when I compliment you, when someone has super low self-esteem and you compliment them, what do they do?
And I do this. You shed it off.
Yep.
Or deny it.
What are you doing?
Well, just earlier I just took it in stride. Accepted. But yes, I was devaluing myself by shedding off.
Yeah, right. So that's what I mean. Like I think there's something there. There's a core of something that I think is really positive within you, because you're able to take it in stride. Right? You're able to just say thank you instead of shedding it, which is
Right.
what I would expect from a 2.
Yeah.
So I think there's also a really nice level of self-awareness where you acknowledge that whether you're a 2 or not is not a statement of fact, it's a state of mind.
Perfect example. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is that you fluctuate between them. And you may spend more
Yes.
time as a 2. But like this is where, I think that, there's all kinds of stuff that if you ever want to go see a therapist, I think, you could do some good work there. But like having an upper class socioeconomic status, high achieving dad who abandons you to a single mother who sounds like was struggling to work and raising 2 kids is like, I don't think you need to be a psychiatrist to recognize that probably does something to your self-esteem. That there are like the haves and the have-nots. And which group are you a part of, Nick?
Yeah. Which, I was raised to believe the have-nots.
Right? So do you really believe that? That you were raised to believe that you were the have-nots, or are you actually a part of the have-nots?
I think I was raised to believe so right now, because I'm in not 2 mode today.
Excellent, right? So here I am. I'm giving you every out to claim the mantle of 2. And you're not claiming it. So I compliment you. You accept it. I'm like, by the way, are you sure you believe that, Nick? That it was just you were conditioned? And you're like, yeah, I was conditioned. So you're moving up.
Yeah. I'm definitely going uphill.
Right? Which is kind of weird. Because
Right.
earlier you were doing the reflexive devaluation. So I think this is the key thing to understand is like awareness of your thought process. And I don't, like you asked, how do I shake it? You're shaking it right now because I keep on trying to throw the mantle on your shoulders and you're like shrugging it off. Go ahead, deny it.
Can't. Because you're right.
Right? That's another opportunity where I was like, deny it and put yourself back in down with the 2s, Nick.
Yeah.
Right? So that's awesome. So like, here's what I hear. You're 28 years old. Sounds like were you ever taught how to study?
No.
Was your mom academically successful?
No.
Right? So like, this is the kind of thing where I've seen that we all develop ideas of our intelligence and competence through school, but we don't acknowledge that some kids are taught how to study. Right? So I'll give you an example of two children. Okay? One child is given homework, goes home, parents ask them, "Did you do your homework?" Kid says yes. May or may not have done it. Parents don't really ask if they have a test. Kid just like shows up on Friday and like takes the test. Another kid has parents who look like when they come home every day, like go through their folder. We're talking like 7-year-old kids, okay? Go through their folder, look at the schedule, understand that their child has a test, looks up the night before the material, or not the night before, like 3 days before the test, goes through the material on the test. The parent goes through the material on the test themselves, and then spends the next 2 days, like half an hour, because it's a 7-year-old, going through the materials with the kid. Both of the kids have the same
Wow.
IQ. One is taught to study and one isn't. Did your mom ever do that with you?
No, wow.
And there were kids in your class whose parents were doing that with them.
That makes a lot of sense in hindsight.
So what I hear is that you're someone who like some people play the game of life and they get a tutorial phase. They get a tutorial where like, okay, this button does this. And this is how we change the camera. This is how we save. This is how we loot treasure chests and accumulate wealth. This is how we manage our finances. This is how we study. Some kids don't get a tutorial. They just get dumped into the game of life. And half of us have gone through the tutorial. Half of us didn't get a tutorial. And then we get really confused and we make judgments about ourselves because we're comparing ourselves to the kids who got straight A's. And then we end up feeling ashamed, right? Because you can see the difference in performance. Right? So like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make a judgment here. Who knows why you're still in an entry level position? Because you said you're good at it, right? Why haven't you gotten promoted?
I guess strangely relevant. I would need to study to get more licensure and stuff.
Okay, so that's important. The other thing is, have you asked?
No, sir.
Right?
Wow.
So I know it's bizarre. There are some people who ask. There are some people who, after working somewhere for a year or 18 months or 2 years, will walk into their boss's office and say, I deserve a promotion for reasons A, B, C, and D. Here's what I bring to the table. Here's what I'm worth. And then there are some people who are taught, conditioned to believe they're twos.
And that I should stay in the position I'm in.
Right? Because here's the thing. Like, I don't know that... I'm not saying your company is bad or your boss is bad or anything, but like... the best bosses will advocate on behalf of their employees, but like, it's not... In a weird way, it's not like their primary responsibility to advocate for you. It's your primary responsibility to advocate for you. And this is the kind of thing where even if your boss is wonderful and wants to advocate for you, like they may have no idea what you even, like how good you are at your job. So what I'm hearing is that, you say a 28-year-old man should be A, B, C, and D, but what I'm actually hearing is you're sort of legit, dude. Sounds like you exercise. Sounds like you have a stable job. You have a roof over your head. You're in a romantic relationship. You have friends. Sounds like you actually have a lot of the boxes checked. Maybe you don't have enough saved at the age of 28, which kind of makes sense because you're still at an entry-level position. I imagine that you don't really advocate for raises or promotions. You've told me as much. You're afraid to go back into school because you were taught that you're dumb, when in reality, I don't know if you ever have you ever played D&D?
Sure.
Okay. So like this is a situation where you have like a lack of a skill proficiency, but your base stats are fine. The problem is that when you fail all your checks, you think your stats are low. But don't confuse like skill proficiency with stats. And like, who the hell wants to play a character who's got straight sixes? That's what we're afraid. No one's ashamed of having a lack of a skill proficiency, but everyone hates having straight sixes across the board on all their stats. That's where the shame is. Like, what are your base stats? You have an 18 anywhere?
Oh, that'd be hard to say.
I'll take that.
Yeah. How could you put a number to?
At least I'm not hearing a no.
Right. Well, good point.
Right? So, I mean, Nick, I think that. So here's you want to continue shaking this? Like, here's my thought. First of all, you have to understand that, I don't know how to say this, but I want you to like really understand and like write out what you expected to be. Not what you really are, but what your mom expected you to be, how far she expected you to go, what your dad expected of you. I don't know if you like never interacted with the dude or what. The other thing that I think would be very, very informative for you, because I think this is one of your awareness stat is high. Because as far as I can tell, you didn't train to become a monk, so it's not skill proficiency. You're making those checks with raw stats, baby. It's not, it's not part of your class.
High wisdom, no bonus.
Absolutely. Right? And you could be someone who has high wisdom and like mediocre int, like absolutely possible, which is why academics may not be good for you, which is fine. But here's what I think next thing you need to do is like talk to your mom. And just ask her and try to understand, like, Mom, like, try not to be blaming, but help me understand, like, what am I entitled to in this life? What are you entitled to in this life? Talk to her about her relationship with your dad, if you can, and try to understand, why did they part ways? What do you think about dad? Dad kind of wasn't around. How do you feel about that? And really just like listen to her about where she gets these expectations. And the more that you're able to like hear that, what'll start to crystallize is like, these are her expectations that come from a life of marrying an upper class person, getting divorced and left with the kids. And then struggling. And sometimes the reason that we learn to expect less of ourselves is because like it's a coping mechanism. So all animals will give up at some point. Why? Because giving up is like an energy conserving strategy. So in a sense, I get the sense that your mom kind of gave up on you. Like, not like, that sounded bad. You know what I like?
No,
she gave up on dreams for you.
Right.
Right? And she didn't teach you to dream. But I honestly, dude, I think you're kind of low-key crushing it. I kind of think that if you just focus a little bit on studying and like focus on your profession, because it sounds like you've actually got a lot of stuff checked. It's just professional stuff and like financial stuff. But you're in a relationship, you exercise, you've got friends. And I've met people who are awesome in terms of their, like vice presidents at investment banks, but they don't have any of the other three. Have their first heart attack at the age of 42. Because they do a bunch of coke and eat like crap and are stressed all the time. And like, I don't think that, I know it sounds kind of weird. They may have a ton of money, but like, I don't think you're worse off than they are from a comparison standpoint. And it's not very useful to compare, but I think if you get promoted and get licensed or whatever in your field, like you could see a big change. And like, how long does it take to get whatever licensure you need?
Maybe a couple of years, give or take.
Right? So like by the time you're 30, you could have it. And then what's the percentage increase in pay that you would get with increased licensure?
That I actually don't know, which shows for how much I've even looked into it.
Right? So what are you going to do next week, Nick?
I'm going to look into it.
You're damn right you are. And why are you going to do that?
What? I guess because what at this point do I have to lose?
Nope. You're going to do it because you deserve it. You're going to do it because you owe it to yourself. You're going to do it because you're worth the research.
I have to sit with that one for a bit.
Yep. Look at you just crushing those wisdom checks right and left.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot to think on. I guess, well. I was going to say it's hard in the working world maybe to accept that being a wisdom or charisma character is all right when they're expecting the int builds, on a resume at least.
Well, we don't know that you're not an it build, to be fair. But be careful about, even if that's the case, like I don't think it really matters. I know it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not saying, like, maybe you have a learning disability or something like that. There are all kinds of reasons why passing tests could be hard for you. Maybe you've got ADHD, who knows? But I think that, you've got the brilliant high int, low whiz people who suck at interpersonal relationships. They actually make bad managers. And it's the high whiz people who actually make good managers. High wisdom and charisma.
I guess I've never thought of it that way.
If I had to translate all of the work that I've done with managers and stuff, I think it's like wisdom and charisma is where it's at. Doing the actual work may require int. But managing a team and being aware and like not getting caught up in your own cognitive biases, that's wisdom. And that's worth a hell of a lot. Any last thoughts or questions, Nick?
No, you've given me a lot to think about on my own, which I thank you for.
You're very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, dude.
No, as well as yourself.
Take care, man, buddy.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. It's tough, dude. I think see, the problem is that there are so many things that we blame ourselves for, right? So like we think about it as a deficiency of me. We don't really acknowledge that there's all kinds of like training and buffs and like all kinds of stuff that goes into the role for being success or failure. And what we assume is it's just straight stats, right? We don't think about like food buffs, which is like some people grow up with personal chefs. And so they eat high fiber, delicious meals that don't launch you into a food coma. Some people grow up in households where like cooking and eating healthy are prioritized. Other people grow up in households where all they're taught is to eat frozen dinners day after day after day after day after day, or fast food. So there's so many, some people are taught how to study. And parents will take responsibility for making sure that kids do well in school. Sometimes that taking that responsibility can cross over into toxicity in terms of helicopter parents, highly demanding parents. I don't care, straight A's or bust. But the good news is that there are warm, like involved parents who are like, okay, let's make sure that you do pretty well. Let's teach you to be independent versus let you flounder on your own or be overly controlling. And what we're left with is shame, because we don't even realize that those are variables. All we see is the failed check. And so we naturally, what do we know? We blame ourselves because that's all we know. And so if you're stuck in this shame, I think the key thing to do is, first of all, understand where did you form these expectations for what you should be? Secondly, what kind of advantages or disadvantages did you have growing up? And it's like really simple stuff, like powerful stuff, like being in a single parent household where your parent is working. They're not going to have time to sit down and go through stuff and teach you how to study or cook food for you. It's like literally like you have, like your parents have 50% of the time. You've got literally one parent instead of two. So imagine how hard it is for those parents to succeed in giving you all those advantages. There's like one less of them. I don't know if y'all have ever done this, but if y'all ever like played these games where you've got a party of people and you just cut your party in half, like that's hard. And so think about some of this stuff and start to realize that just because you're ashamed doesn't actually mean that you're at fault. That you've been like given these expectations. And once you realize that, then you can start to formulate a plan to move forward. Last thing is be careful about how you devalue your accomplishments, because it honestly sounds like Nick is doing pretty well. Got a roof over his head, romantic relationship, exercises every day. Or no, maybe not every day, but regularly. And oh no, there are some men out there, maybe women, who can bench press more than he can. Just like, wow. That's nothing to be ashamed of. All right, let's move on. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Can you count to 10 for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. And what do you go by, my friend?
I'm Steven.
Okay. And Steven, what emotions do you struggle with? Welcome.
Thank you. I struggle with stress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you help me understand what you mean by the word stress?
Yeah, so when I struggle with stress, it usually comes out as frustrations towards both myself and towards other people. It can be, for example, my boss that is not able to see that I'm overworked, or frustration.
And so, okay. So I don't think about stress as an emotion. So I think it kind of is an emotion, but it's also like an umbrella emotion. So it usually covers other emotions. So can you tell me what you're stressed out about?
Oh, sorry, I disconnected there for a second.
No problem. So when I think about stress,
Can you hear me?
yes. Can you hear me? Bueller?
I am not able to hear you.
We can hear you fine. Tech teller? Okay. Looks like they're troubleshooting. Let's move on, and we'll circle back to Stephen if we can. GG, go next. Oh, let's try again. Stephen?
Let's try again. Yes.
Awesome. You back with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So how far did you get?
Yeah, so let me just start over. So when I think about stress, I it's what I would consider an umbrella emotion. So it usually is a word that we use to describe a bundle of other emotions. So can you tell me what stresses you out?
Unforeseeable things. So if something drops on my table that I'm not aware of, then I feel this overwhelming feeling of stress or frustration, if it makes sense.
What kind of thoughts go through your head when something unexpected happens? Pay F? Pay respects, press F? Stephen? Hopefully he's not stressed out because this is an unexpected. Hello.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's happening.
I'm not sure either. Are you stressed out about the audio issues?
I am. My heart is pumping.
Okay. So help me understand what are you experiencing right now?
Maybe that there is something that I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
Or something that I should be able to fix.
And is that how you feel at work when something unforeseeable happens?
Yes.
Okay. This may sound like a weird question, but why is it your responsibility?
That's some pressure I put on myself. Thinking about it rationally, then it's not my problem, but it's the expectations I have towards myself.
And help me understand those a little bit. What do you expect from yourself?
I won't say to be the best, but at least to be able to perform.
And perform what? I know it's kind of a weird question because it's kind of like we're talking in the abstract.
To provide results.
Okay. And
to be noticed, to get recognition from everyone around you.
And so if you're not going to get positive recognition, but may even get negative recognition, what does that possibility do to you?
Gives me more stress.
Help me understand that. What do you mean by more stress?
Well, actually, just the thought it makes me kind of anxious. It is a hard question because the feeling of getting negative criticism or not being recognized actually it's yeah.
So
it's a hard question.
Yeah, so I think you've actually done a great job of answering it, Stephen. So let me share with you what I heard, and then you let me know if this fits. So I can totally get why unforeseeable things stress you out, because what I'm imagining is that, first of all, positive recognition is very important to you. Negative recognition is to be avoided at all costs, right?
Mhm.
And so the cool thing is that you can plan for that, right? So like if you know what's expected of you, you can make sure that you can put in the time, do a good job, make sure you get recognized for it, make sure you don't screw it up, right?
Yeah.
But then suddenly, like if someone dumps something on your desk at the 11th hour, which is not something that you planned for, it's almost like you're being set up to fail.
Yes.
Is that what it feels like?
Yes. Well, at least well, I want to turn it around and say that I'm not being able to succeed.
Right? So what's it like to plan to succeed, to work hard to succeed, and then be put in a situation where you're not able to succeed?
That's not a nice feeling.
Okay. What is that feeling?
Overwhelming.
Okay. So overwhelming is so first of all, I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to work through this, Stephen.
Okay. Yeah.
Some of the questions I may ask you may make you feel a little bit foolish, but I don't think you're foolish. I think this is what happens in society, which is that we don't know how to put names to emotions. It's not a skill that we're taught. You with me?
I'm with you.
So overwhelming is not an emotion. It's a size of an emotion. Does that make sense? It's too much of an emotion.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So I'm with you, and I think that's what stressed is, right? So I would guess that when you say you feel stressed, you feel overwhelmed. So the emotion is too much. But what is the thing? What is too much? I'm going to let you stumble for a little bit, and then I'll help you out.
Yeah. I can think it's kind of hard putting the name to the feeling.
You're right. It is. It's very hard.
But
What are you frustrated?
I do think.
Huh?
You were going to ask me what I'm frustrated about?
Yeah. What are you frustrated about? You're frustrated with your boss. Help me understand that a little bit.
I'm frustrated with him that he's not able to see that I am overworked, and that he should actually know that I have enough on my plate already.
And why do you think he doesn't recognize how overworked you are?
Because I don't say no.
So are you frustrated just with your boss?
No, I'm also frustrated with myself.
What are you frustrated with yourself for?
That I'm not able to set boundaries.
So let me ask you something, Stephen. What's it like to go through life piloting a body and mind that can't set boundaries with people?
Well, that's my life.
Yep. So what's it like to be you? What's it like to be someone who can't set boundaries with people?
It's hard. It's I feel that I have to please everyone all the time, and no one is actually. I'm not able to please myself.
Yep. Right. So you can't. So now I'm going to toss out words. Okay. The first thing is that this sounds very unfair to me. It sounds unjust. What do you think?
I listened in before, and he took the recognition, but I'm the kind of person who pushes it away and say I have to work hard to receive recognition, and if it's unjust or unfair, I need to work harder for it to become fair.
Okay. So it sounds like you're not. when you're, so let me put it this way. When you're already overworked and your boss plops a bunch of work on your desk, you don't think that that's unfair? You don't feel like that's unfair?
I do in the moment. I do.
There we go.
Of course.
Okay, so now we can see. So now I'm going to highlight something for you, okay? This is why I think it's hard to put words to it. Because in the moment you feel something, but how do you respond to those feelings? When you feel like this is unfair, what does your mind say?
It tells me, or it like I said, it comes out as frustration. I become angry.
Yep. Right? So it comes out as angry because you feel something genuinely, that this isn't fair. And then what you do is you beat yourself up for feeling like it's unfair. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, I shouldn't be so weak. I should be stronger. I should be able to set limits. I should be able to make it fair. I need to work harder. Is that what you say to yourself?
Yes. You can't see me, but I'm smiling. You're spot on.
Right? And so then how like and so how do you feel about, how does someone so when someone talks to themselves like that, what do they start to think about themselves?
That I'm not worth a lot.
Right? You're weak. You're not worth a lot. And so when you have two people in this relationship, you've got your boss who's worth something and you who aren't worth a lot. First of all, that creates another layer of frustration and anger with yourself, because on some level, I think you know that that's wrong. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
But then we can see how you become a people pleaser. Because if anytime there's a disagreement and one person is worth something and one person isn't worth something, who are we going to go with? Whose opinion matters more?
The person who's worth something.
Absolutely. Who deserves to be happy?
The person who's worth something.
Right? And if you can make them happy, then what?
Then maybe I can become. I can get some self-worth.
Right? Because if other people, if everyone, so Stephen, if you do a great job, if you work extra hard and never say no to any work, what are people going to say about you?
Positive things, that I'm a hardworking, good person at the company.
Yep. Right? And they're going to recognize you so much. And how much recognition does it take for you to feel proud of yourself?
Oh, wow. More and more for each time.
Beautiful. The right answer is more. And how's that working out for you, Stephen? Chasing recognition, because you need more each time. How's it working out for you?
It's not going too well, Dr. K. It's not.
Help me understand why not.
Because the glass will always be half empty.
Well said. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, the more recognition I fill into the glass, the bigger the glass will become. And it's more recognition is needed for it to be full, and it will never be full.
So what do you think you should do about that, Stephen?
Oh, I have no idea. Stop chasing recognition. But that's easier said than done.
What makes it hard?
Because I feel like I need it to get by every day.
Yep. Well said. Right? I think the other thing that's hard is that if you stop chasing recognition, how are you... So in a moment, let's say your boss comes into your office and says, hey, I've got this extra work for you. And you accept it because you're chasing recognition, right? Mm-hmm. How would it feel to say, I can't handle that, my plate is full?
As a personal loss or defeat.
Right? So this is what's kind of weird. You're struggling really, really, really hard to not be a loser, right? You're sacrificing yourself to not be a loser. And in order to stop being a loser, you have to be willing to lose. Does that make sense? You got to let it go. You got to accept defeat to no longer be a loser. Does that make sense, or is that way too abstract?
It is a little bit abstract.
So what I mean is that so you're trying to avoid feeling like a failure, right? That's why you don't say no.
Yes.
Okay. We don't want to feel like a failure, so whatever you give us, we're going to do. And then we're going to be overworked, we're going to be stressed, we're going to be overwhelmed, and we're going to wind up dropping some balls. And we're going to end up making mistakes. Right?
Right.
So I don't want to be a failure, and thus you take on more work than you can handle, you're burnt out, and you set yourself up to be a failure. Right?
Yes.
And so how do we get around that? It's when the work comes in and we say no, what do you feel like?
A loser.
A failure. So oddly enough, what you need to do is actually embrace being a failure in order to stop being a failure. Which is paradoxical, because as long as you're chasing success, you're dooming yourself to failure. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
And so I know it's going to be really weird, but I'm talking about like in a moment. So the fear that a lot of people have is that they feel like they're going to feel like a failure for days on end if they say no today. So what I would strongly recommend to you is, first of all, be prepared that you've got to be able to tolerate the feeling of being a failure to start setting up boundaries and being able to like actually become successful. But for that moment, you have to like take that bitter medicine, which is I'm going to feel terrible about myself, because you can't tolerate that feeling, which is why you never say no. Right? People pleasers can't tolerate disappointing other people. And since you can't tolerate disappointing people, you make promises you can't keep, and then you end up disappointing people. And then you're like, never again. I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling. And then they come and ask you for favors and you don't want that feeling. So you say yes and you end up disappointing them. Do you understand that what you've got to do is in that moment, disappoint people? That's the only way you get past this.
Sounds hard.
It is hard. So there's practical stuff that you can do. So I'm going to try to equip you with a couple of like ideas, okay? The first is have a conversation with your boss. Do you think your boss is a good person?
No.
Okay. Is your workplace abusive? Not abusive, but do they take advantage of you?
In the department where I'm working, yes, but in the company in general, no.
Is there any possibility of moving?
No. I'm applying for other jobs, so.
Okay. So this is important. So if your boss is not a good person and is not willing to hear you out, then that sucks and you should, potentially move. But even at your new boss, I wouldn't be surprised if you create this kind of situation.
Oh, it's the story of my life.
Okay. Right. So this is where I think it's worthwhile for you to like approach your boss. I recognize this may not go well, but I'm just going to, let's assume that you have at least a decent boss. Even with a not a decent boss, you can still do this kind of stuff, although your chances of success are lower. And you can ask your boss, hey, what do you think about my current workload? So we're going to start with something called an open-ended question. We're not going to make any assumptions. And then we're going to hear what your boss has to say.
Okay.
The other thing that we're going to do is that at some point you may want to try to lay out what your experience of working here is like. And then the other thing that you can try to do is so you can say like, hey, so here's what I've got on my plate. I've noticed there's a pattern where Thursdays at 5 p.m. someone comes in and like gives me additional work. And then I'm having trouble getting everything done. And I'm really trying, like I'm starting to burn out. If your boss is not compassionate, you don't have to say that. But the other approach that you can sort of take is when someone gives you new work, you can share with them what your current responsibilities are and what's the priority. So if someone says like, hey, like we need you to do this by tomorrow, and you can say, okay, absolutely, 100% I can do it by tomorrow. Out of the other 3 things I'm supposed to have done by tomorrow, which one should I push?
See, this is what I'm doing, but in a very, not in a good way, in a very, like, I'm saying it in a frustrating tone and an angry tone. So not very...
So that's where like what we've sort of found, especially in career coaching, is that dealing with your frustration separately is critical to communicating effectively. You can't be frustrated when you communicate like this. Does that make sense?
It does.
So
yes.
so it's not a statement. It's not like weakness, and it's not that your boss is mean. It's just a statement of facts. It's like there are 10 hungry people and we have 5 sandwiches. Which 5 people do you want me to feed? I'm happy. We've got five sandwiches and 7 people. 3 more people show up. You tell me I need to feed them. Totally fine. I can absolutely feed these 3 people. Which 3 people are going to go hungry instead? You're just going to put it to your boss. You can say, you can do whatever. I'll do whatever you want me to do. What's the priority? And then this is where your boss may be squirrely and be like, they're all equal priorities. You can say, I'm having a lot of trouble understanding that because like, which one is the most important? They're like, they're all important. Then you can say like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all these. Well, you need to get to all these. And then you kind of like have your answer, which is, you know, that this place may not be very okay to stay at. There's another actually interesting high level play that you can make here, which is you can ask your boss. It sounds like you're getting a ton of like unreasonable requests. Does that make sense, Steven?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
And then what do you think? Because like if your boss is like, they're all a priority, like what do you, like they've got pressure too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's a really good tactic where you can suddenly be on their side and you can say, look, I'm happy to try to help you. It sounds like they're asking you to do too much. Can we try to figure out together like how to prioritize this? So this is something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to overbearing bosses. So there's a saying that we've got, shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
But what that means is even if it's winding up with you, what that means is that it rolled past your boss. And so these are the kinds of techniques that were never really taught, but you can try empathizing with your boss and saying like, look, I know you've got too much to work on. I'm doing the best that I can. This sounds like it's ridiculous. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let your bosses down. I want to try to help you shine, but like, this is crazy, dude. I need some help figuring out how to prioritize. And it's very hard for bosses to, when you frame it like that, like you're asking for help and that you want to succeed, it's very hard for bosses to be like, fuck you, do it all. And then what we've actually seen is that you can sort of be like that your boss's ally. They can start treating you a lot better. Like you can kind of even model behavior for them to set limits with people above them. Right? And it's kind of weird, but it can work really well. So in your case, I think there are a couple of different things to do. So one is I'd say that be really careful about your feeling of not disappointing people or your fear of disappointing people in the moment, because that's what sets you up actually for failure. And you've got to be able to tolerate some of like setting limits with people and them being disappointed in you. And then the second thing is there's like language that you can use to mitigate that disappointment. And really demonstrate to your boss that you really do want to try. You really do care about your job. You're a hard worker. You're willing to go the extra mile. But what they're asking is like way more, like you started going the extra mile 3 miles ago. And you can go the extra mile or kilometer based on your accent. But, you know, like going 5 kilometers extra is just too much. And you don't want to come across as if your boss isn't compassionate, you don't want to come across as I'm burnt out, I can't handle it. To be like, this work, the pace of this work is really, really high. I'm struggling to keep up. I'm trying to prioritize. Will you help me? And if they say, no, I'm not going to help you prioritize, you need to do it all. Then you're already looking for other jobs. And then the key thing is when you leave that job, they're going to ask you to stay. And you're going to probably should say no. So I think there's a personal level to this and there's like a work level to this. Does that help?
I totally, yeah, it does. It really does.
And I think the student became the master, Stephen, because you were telling us that, okay, like the glass keeps growing and no amount of external recognition will be sufficient, which you're spot on. Right? And then the last thing I'll kind of leave you with as a dimension for exploration is, when did you start needing the recognition of others to feel good about yourself?
Wow, that's a long time ago. I'm an old guy.
So that's where you can go to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Thank you very much for calling in, Stephen.
Thank you for taking the time.
You're very welcome, my friend. Good luck to you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. So I think we kind of summed up there too, but there's this interesting cycle of I don't want to disappoint people. So I can't tolerate telling people no because of I need their approval. Why do I need their approval? Because I don't feel good about myself. So when you don't feel good about yourself, you need the recognition of others to fill that void. So now that I need the recognition of others and the esteem of others to feel good about myself, when someone comes and asks me for something, then I can't say no because I need this person to not be disappointed in me. The tricky thing there is that this is not a winning strategy, because then if I can't turn someone down, then people keep on asking me and keep on asking me and keep on asking me, and then I set myself up for failure because I'm overtaxed and under-resourced. And then as I'm overtaxed and under-resourced, I end up disappointing people. As I end up disappointing people, I feel worse about myself. As I feel worse about myself, I need more recognition from other people to balance that. And so bizarrely, I know it sounds kind of weird, but to stop letting people down, you have to start letting people down, right? To stop disappointing people, what you've got to do is start disappointing people, which is setting limits and tolerate that disappointment in the moment, which will feel terrible for like an hour, but will save you so much a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Because then something magical will happen. As you start to set limits, you can actually start doing a good job. As you start to do a good job, you're going to get positive recognition. And then I know it sounds kind of bizarre, but it'll start to balance out. And as you start satisfying people, they're going to be okay with you setting boundaries on them. And then the last thing is we went over a little bit of, professional jujitsu about if you're overworked and your boss is like always giving you more work and they're unsympathetic to what you have to say, there's actually a very secret technique that we went over, which is being sympathetic to your boss for giving you an unreasonable amount of work. Because if they're giving you an unreasonable amount of work, it means someone above them is giving them an unreasonable amount of work. And oddly enough, empathizing with your boss in that moment can actually be very helpful. Okay. We got time for one more. Let's go. Oh. Sorry. I disconnected. We have time for one more.
Hello?
Hello. Can you count to 10 for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Perfect. And what's your name, my friend?
10. You can call me Andy.
Andy. Welcome, Andy. What's the emotion
Andy.
that you struggle with the most?
The emotion I struggle with the most is probably loneliness, but it's not necessarily isolation, because I actually have a good amount of friendships and I'm very close with my siblings. It's more so, I would say, sort of like deeper connection and like having some sort of understanding with someone.
Okay. So it sounds like you kind of feel like alone in a crowd of people.
Yes.
How long have you felt that way?
Pretty much my whole life.
Wow.
And I know that sounds dark. I actually like my current life. I'm doing pretty well by my own standards. But I haven't found anyone where I really feel understood, let's say.
Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, of course. I'm 21.
Okay. And what do you think has made it hard for you to find someone that you can confide in?
So I'm someone who has a lot of deep conversations with people, but I'm usually on the receiving end. So I'm usually the one doing the helping, for example. That's like what I'm going to school for. And because of this, right, like I've built experience and I've learned that being vulnerable is a good trait to have. And every deep conversation I've had, I truly appreciate all the effort and time they put into me, but I feel like I get the same answers that I've already played through my head, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I just lost you a little bit. So when you say deep conversations, you're talking about emotionally supporting one of your friends?
Yes, that's one of them, yeah.
Okay. And then, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you are able to be vulnerable and actually lean on others for support. Correct?
Yes. I've had people have supported me a lot, especially in recent years.
Okay, and yet you don't feel connected to either of those groups, either the people that you support or the people that support you.
I do feel a connection to them, and that's why I'm currently in a happy place. It's more so that I will occasionally have like those late night thinking episodes where you just sit in a spiral and realize that even though there are people who care for me, I don't feel as if I'm playing a critical role in anyone's life. And that's when I kind of went through like the whole rationalization process of realizing that I'm not going to be a critical part of everyone that I care about, and I shouldn't expect them to do the same for me. And it's just, building my own path. It's just dealing with that, with the emotions that rise up whenever you're having like existential thoughts. I don't know if I lost you
Nope.
there.
I'm just. Can I think for a second?
Of course.
I really thought this was a powerful phrase you used, Andy. I don't play a critical role in anyone's life. Can you help me understand that?
Right. So I've spoken with people that were going through hardships, and I definitely feel as if I've helped those close to me. So when I say playing a critical role, I mean someone that they rely on and spend the majority of their time with to like pursue meaning in life or just fulfillment in general. Like I've noticed I tend to be like a side character, let's say.
So
That's not exactly how I think about myself, but
yeah, I think I understand you. So what I'm hearing is that like on paper you have a lot of legit relationships, but when it comes down to
Yes.
it, you know, they're not party members; they're side characters. If that sort of makes sense.
I would describe it as if I am their side character.
And do you feel like
Right.
someone plays a critical role in your life?
Yes. I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of push me to where I am right now.
And so you'd consider them vitally important to your life.
Yes.
And this may sound like a weird question, but have you ever asked people in your life what they think about you?
Yeah, I have a couple times, and they're usually very positive responses.
What was the question? So, can I think for a second, Andy?
Of course.
Okay, so other people have played a critical role in your life, right?
Yes.
Do they know that?
I tried to make that as clear as possible, yes.
How?
For example, a close friend of mine who lives far from me that I've known probably the longest out of all my current friends texted me happy birthday a couple weeks ago. And they were like one of the only people who did it. And I was like, oh, I really appreciate you, by the way. And we've had a couple conversations about how even though we don't talk often and even though we live different lives, like we can still appreciate each other and be there for each other. So I have a lot of relationships with people where I know that if I called them even at like 3 a.m, we would be able to have like a good conversation or they would be willing to drop things to help me. But it's sort of like the step after that where it's like, I love that they're willing to help me and I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, but there's just something missing that I haven't received from anyone that still makes me feel like a unique anomaly, if that makes sense.
Andy, have you ever been in love?
Yes.
Are you in love right now?
I've been trying to move past it for a while now.
Why?
It didn't work out. I don't know if you want details. I don't mind sharing. I don't know if that's the direction you want to take this.
So Andy, just to be frank with you, like, okay, so like if you say that I don't play a critical role in anyone's life, so it sounds to me like
Right.
you have very genuine, deep, reciprocal relationships where if something happened to you tomorrow, I get the sense that a lot of people would feel that loss and very genuinely grieve. Would you agree with that or disagree?
I agree.
So, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but if someone says, okay, I don't play a critical role in anyone else's life, we've got two options there, okay? One is that you're wrong. Like there's some kind of cognitive bias, self-esteem, depression, whatever, where you think that way, but it's not true. Does that make sense?
Yes. I've done a lot of reflection on that. I went from someone who had a lot of self-loathing to someone who has moderate respect for himself.
Awesome. We'll take it. Strong work, Andy. But the thing is, like, you may not be, like, I don't know how to say this, but you may not be wrong there. Maybe the reason that you feel like you don't play a critical, vital role, like, sure, you'll be missed, sure, you'll be grieved, and sure, you're loved. But I'm kind of hearing you say that, like, no one's life would be shattered and irreparable if you disappeared tomorrow.
I strongly disagree with that.
Okay, tell me.
I know that there's definitely a couple of people within my family who would be strongly affected by if I deceased, right? And I actually the way I kind of pulled myself out of like the whole like depression, let's say, because I never considered myself depressed, but I definitely went through a lot of episodes of like difficulty understanding myself, was I came up with this quote that was, the less you take care of yourself, the bigger the burden you place on others.
Beautiful, dude.
And that
That's
led
brilliant.
to a series of reflections where I realized, well, if I don't want to be a burden on those that I strongly care about, I must care about myself, or else they will forever worry about me.
Brilliant. So you're telling me
And
that...
so that's where I am.
But you're telling me that if you disappeared from the face of the earth tomorrow, many people's lives would be shattered.
Some.
Some.
Many is a strong word.
Okay, some.
Yeah, I agree.
Some.
I agree, yeah.
Okay. So how is that not playing a critical role in someone's life? And it doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to catch you in a logical trap. I'm just trying to understand. Because that sounds like you play a critical role.
No, yeah. Of course. And I agree in that aspect. I do play a critical role. I feel like maybe I got off on the wrong foot. I was trying to imply that while I do have meaningful connections, it is partially one-sided in that I lack some form of fulfillment in them.
Yeah, okay. So,
and that it makes me feel bad because I cannot connect to some people that I truly love, because I do not feel understood when I try to enter, deeper stages of understanding.
So when you say you don't feel understood, you were mentioning earlier that when you open up to some people, they tell you things that you've already told yourself. Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Can you give me an example of that?
So for example, one of my biggest hardships, right, is my romantic life, right? So let's go back to the girl I love, since that's like the terminology we're using, right? I've had a lot of difficulties and a lot of I've learned a lot of life lessons through this pursuit, let's say, right? And whenever I discuss sort of the hardships and like the emotions and like the sufferings that come with like my experiences with this girl, right? A lot of people tend to tell me things along the lines of, it happens, it'll get better, you'll find another one. And I don't disagree with anything that they're saying. Of course, in order for me to move on, which is what I'm trying to do, I have to come to those realizations. But it's the attempt to try to understand why I feel the way I do that I feel like I haven't received from anyone.
Makes perfect sense.
And
dude.
it's too difficult for me to explain to myself because I'm experiencing them.
Andy, are you heartbroken?
If that makes sense. I would say for a long time I was.
What's it like to love someone who I'm assuming doesn't love you back?
It's really hard. I spent a lot of years thinking it was going to work out.
Wow. So it sounds like this has been something that there's been someone in your life that for years.
Yeah. If you want, I can give you a quick summary. I've practiced this.
I'd love to hear it if you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course. I'll try to keep it brief. So this goes back to middle school. I have a vivid memory. I met her on a field trip to a presentation. It's like the love at first sight. I saw her on the bus. I watched her instead of the presentation. And then the next day, my best friend comes up to me and says, I just met this beautiful girl. And it's her. So they go through a relationship, doesn't work out. She becomes very close to me because I'm best friends with him. Couple months later, I fall in love with her, and then we break off because her parents wouldn't allow her to date. And so the next year, she joins me in high school, and she's a bit distant. So, being myself, I kept doing high school things, talking to other people. And eventually, a mutual friend told me that she didn't care about me anymore. And so I'm like, okay, well, I had to do something about this. There's rumors that another girl liked me. I got into a 3-year relationship. She got into other relationships. During this entire time, we were best friends. She told me a lot of private details about things happening with her family and in her relationships. And it always felt that there was tension. And she always mentioned things about me having sort of the traits that she wants in a partner. And then, due to me being unwise, I made a comment to try to prevent her from experiencing a difficulty in one of her most recent relationships that she did not take very fondly, and we had a falling out, and I have not spoken to her since.
Okay, wait. What did you say
I
about
hope that was...
doing something unwise? What did you say to her that was unwise?
I essentially told her that the person that she's not, her current relationship at the time was not going to last because it seemed to me that he did not truly care for her.
And she didn't like hearing that.
Correct. Especially because it actually happened. And he broke it off with her.
And then you said,
And
told you so.
she held it. No, I didn't say anything. I said, I'm truly sorry that happened. I was trying to prepare you for the worst. And then she's like, yeah, well, fuck you. And then, here we are.
Andy, how long have you been in love with this girl?
I think close to 7 years.
What's it like to fall in love with someone and have them date one of your best friends?
Well, at the time, I didn't know that. I look over at the chat for 1 second. I just see a Keck W. Okay, I'm closing it. That's so funny. At first, it didn't bother me because when I first met her, I didn't realize the relationship that I was going to have with her, right? It wasn't until she started to experience a lot of tragic, unfair relationship drama that I started to feeling the gut punches, right? At first, when she was talking to my best friend, it's like, oh, whatever. Like, I hadn't done anything with the girl. And I wasn't going to take away the opportunity from my best friend at the time. I would say it was most painful when we were both in a relationship because I had to learn that the girl that I was with, that I did love and that I did care for, I realized the hard way that unless I have some sort of infatuation with the girl I'm dating, I cannot be the partner. I cannot be a competent partner, someone that I'm okay with being. And so the girl, not the one that I'm in love with, the one that I cared for and was dating for 3 years, which sounds kind of sad, eventually was like, I'm not getting what I want out of this relationship. And I'm like,
sure,
I understand.
Because you're
I
in love
think
with
we
someone
can
else.
make this work. Yeah. And I told her that before we started dating. That's a whole nother story. And so because of that, I'm now in this predicament where I'm too busy to be the partner that I would want to be for a future romantic partner. And I have not found someone that I feel I could be competent with. Because to provide like
what
the
do you
little
mean too
details
busy
that
and
make...
competent with?
Well, because like...
Do you still love this
I don't
girl
want...
from 70 years?
A part of me will probably always love her, but I am capable of being in a new relationship, if that makes sense.
So I mean, like,
I mean,
Andy, I like, you know, I know sometimes things are psychologically complicated and whatnot, and we'll dig into a bunch of stuff. But what I'm hearing is that you want to be. It's not that you're. So you said I don't have a critical role in anyone's life. Whereas, like, it sounds like that's not true. What I'm really hearing after all this is that you just want to be a critical part of one person's life, and you haven't been able to.
I would agree with that.
So, like,
I think there's another, like, intellectual factor that I haven't had with anyone, even though I've met some brilliant people. But in terms of relationships, that's certainly true.
I mean, so this is where, like, so maybe there's something weird going on here with some scars and all that kind of stuff. But this is where there's a part of me that's like, I think that, you know, so if you feel like you're not a critical part of anyone's life and you're feeling like empty on the inside, right? That you can have people who love you, people whom you love, very close friends, very close family, people who have supported you emotionally through hard times. You've supported them emotionally through hard times. Apparently you're in school right now to be able to study to help other people. Like, all that's great, but what I'm hearing is that you don't have love. And you're like, you don't have a life that you can build with someone. That there's like you're you know, you haven't found your soulmate, or you have found your soulmate and you're not in a relationship. And so that's where it's like, I don't think there's anything cognitively wrong with that. I just think that you're a 21-year-old who fell in love with the wrong girl.
Ouch. That's a reasonable finding. I agree with that.
I mean, when I say something like that, do you feel like I don't understand you?
I think you've come to a reasonable conclusion.
I mean, sure, it's reasonable, but is it right?
Yes, it is right. It's just, how do I explain this? The issue that I have isn't that I'm some lover boy who can't get past her, right? The issue that I have is I'm finding it difficult to find the motivation to attempt to do that again. For example.
When did y'all have this rupture?
About a year ago.
So it sounds like you haven't moved past her yet. You haven't gotten over her, and it's been a year.
What would constitute getting past her in your eyes?
It's a great question. Not feeling the way that you do. Right? Being able to recognize seeing someone else and having that love at first sight experience. Having space in your heart for someone else. Because what I'm hearing is that you can date, right? You can kind of go through the motions, but there's a spark that's missing even in your 3-year relationship. I'm hearing that you're self-aware. I'm hearing that you're progressive in the sense that you're not just going to wallow in things. You're not hung up on her. You're not sitting at home all day crying your eyes out. You recognize that that ship has sailed and you're like basically grieving. But that I also get the sense that in your mind, and even to a certain degree your experience, you've had some conversations with this girl where you felt like she's the one and y'all connect on such a deep level, but you guys just haven't, like, y'all kept on like missing each other. And so you never had the chance to explore like a real relationship with her. Because you get a crush on her, she starts dating your friend, then y'all kind of like have some stuff going on. You date someone, she dates other people. And then like you're the bearer of bad news, right? Which is like fair because it sounds like you care about her as a friend as well. And you're able to sort of notice that. But it sounds to me like you've been in love with a girl for 7 years and you've never really been able to have a relationship with her. And you sound like you're mature and heartbroken. And you're in the process of getting over heartbroken. But I don't think this is like cognitively like a mistake on your part or some kind of bias or whatever. I mean, who knows? You can go get clinically evaluated for a mood disorder if you want to. But it sounds to me like you fell in love with the wrong girl and like you're in the process of moving past her. And until you do, you're going to feel like there's a fundamental part of your, like, of you that no one gets to see or feel or know.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
let me ask you this, Andy. If she called you up tomorrow and was like, Andy, I've just realized that I've loved you my whole life and circumstances haven't been right, and I'm so sorry for everything that I've done. Can we hang out sometime? And then y'all talk until 5 a.m. You guys talk through the night and the sun comes up. Like, how would you feel about that?
I would probably want to take it really slow, and it would probably hurt me a lot.
What would hurt you about that?
I believe everything happens for a reason. And if this is the point where she would decide that we are something that should be attempted, it would be painful to have to think about the implications of that.
What's painful about it? What are the implications?
At this point in my life, I do not see any reasonable explanation for why someone should say, "Oh yes, you are currently the perfect form."
Andy.
I would have never pursued
Andy,
this
bro.
before.
Andy?
I'm sorry, you got me emotional. Give me a break. I'm not using my logical brain here.
No. I mean, so it's you who should give me a break. If anyone needs to apologize here, it's me. But here's what I'm hearing. I think you're going to have to take it slow, because if she told you she loved you, it would hurt a lot. Because you've loved her for a long time, and now she's realizing it. And now, like, after all this time and all this hurt and all this rejection and her dating other dudes and you dating people that you're not in love with, now she shows up. That's why you're going to take it slow.
Yes.
It sounds like you're still in love.
I think yeah. You've done a very good job.
I mean, you've done a very good job. I'm not trying to be harsh with you, but like, I don't think there's anything wrong with you, man. I think that this is what it is. Like, you're living life. You're mature. You're thoughtful. You're careful. You're not going to let yourself be hung up on her, right? Which I think is awesome. That despite the fact that you were maybe in love with her, you decided to try to date someone else. You're not going to like put your life on hold for this person.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic. I think you've got self-respect. And this is what sucks about being in love, is that you can do everything right and still get fucked. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right, bro.
I think I learned how to do things better.
Yeah. Like, look at you. You're awesome, man.
I did things right.
And no amount of you being awesome and learning how to do things right, like that's the tragedy of love, my friend, is that no amount of that shit will take away that feeling of being critical in the one person's life that you're head over heels in love with.
I truly appreciate you saying that, especially because it's you. Because I feel, I don't know, somewhat justified in my suffering now.
Of course.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's some antisocial implication that's happened because of this. But I'm just doing my best.
Yeah.
And I was hoping maybe this call would, reveal sort of like if it's just loneliness or
honest to God, Andy, I wish there was something wrong with you, but I don't think there is. I think
I'm glad to hear that.
I think you're a good dude who's trying to live life. You're 21 years old. You fell in love with the wrong person. You didn't get hung up on her. You're doing everything right. And unfortunately, like, that's how the heart works. Like, and it sucks, bro. I don't think you're going to be ruined for the rest of your life. I think that somewhere along the way, like, the heart heals. That's what happens. Sometimes it takes longer than a year, especially when you've been in love with someone for 7 years. So give yourself a little bit of time to heal. And like, I mean, you're just too much of a Romeo to to not get through this mess. I mean, to not have this whole cycle happen again with someone else.
I'm too Romeo. That's so funny. I used to call myself a hopeless romantic.
And you are. And this is both the tragedy and joy of being a hopeless romantic. Is that like it hurts so much now, but like I hope to God, Andy, one day you find someone who reciprocates your feelings, and that is going to be a high like no other.
I would truly look forward to that. And I do believe I'm capable of
I
it.
believe you are too.
No, this is soiling it. I want to show my camera. I deeply
up, man?
appreciate you. I saw you turn on your camera, so I'm like, I have to show a little bit of love. But yeah, hopefully,
Dude, you're good. Good
hopefully
looking dude.
I'll be doing. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that I'm gonna be capable of doing what you're doing in a couple of years.
I'm sure you will be.
Well, a couple is probably gonna be a lot, but
It's nice to see you smile, my friend.
my cheeks hurt. But yeah, this conversation's helped a lot. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
This is genuinely the first time I've heard a summary that like is like, yes, that is what's been happening.
Yeah, man.
If that makes sense.
I think you seem really mature. Like you seem very mature for your age, to me. And I think that, you know, you're doing things right. But I don't like. There's this idea that if we do everything right, we're not going to suffer. It's just
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. That's
right.
Yeah, you're gonna suffer.
I mean, sometimes life is just shit.
And it's a catalyst to change.
And I'm hearing that you've done basically like everything within your power to do what you can do. Like you gave an honest effort to a 3-year relationship with someone else. And you love someone else. But keep trying. Like honestly, Andy, I think you don't stop. Don't ever change. Even if it hurts today, like it's worth it. It's worth it.
Do you know how painful it is? That I've heard so many people tell me that, and I'm always like, no, I clearly have to change, right? If something's not working, what's the first assumption you make?
That you're doing something wrong.
I'm the problem.
And that's what I'm telling you.
I'm doing something
and I'm
wrong.
sorry to slip into what other people say, but I think what happens, Andy, is that when people talk to you, like you are so genuine, and frankly, you're lovely. Like,
I appreciate that.
and so we don't want to see you change. It would be sad if you became calloused.
What do I say to that? I clearly have to change because there's still a lot in my life that isn't the way it should
Sure,
be.
then
But
work.
I understand what you're talking about, though. There's certainly there's some core traits that I should definitely try to hold on to.
Yeah, so I think there's a difference between like improving and getting better at some stuff and changing who you are.
I agree with that.
There's
You're right.
a part
You
of
actually
me,
phrased it
if you want to
appropriately.
change. But there's a part of me that thinks that the world is a little bit brighter because you're out there being who you are. And I think it'd be dimmer if you became more calculating.
That's the first time I've really believed someone when they say that. Which is kind of dark, and it makes me sound like an asshole.
Look at my face. Do I look like I'm talking to an asshole?
No, definitely not.
I'm talking
I
to
appreciate that.
a brilliant fool.
That is the best compliment I've ever gotten.
And don't you stop being brilliant, and don't you stop being a dumbass.
Don't worry, dumbass for life. I'm not getting off that train.
Good. I boarded it a while ago. I'm still riding it, so we're gonna ride it to the end, baby.
I got on the right train. We're going places.
It's bumpy. They're not necessarily pretty, but we're gonna ride it to the end.
You know what's a little horse ride without some bumps? That's boring.
Wise beyond your years, my friend.
And hopefully wiser, because I'm pretty sure me from last year was a dumbass. So if I'm still a dumbass, I still got a long way to go.
You and me both, my friend. So good. It sounds like you're going to keep going forward, so you keep doing you. Best of luck to you, Andy.
Thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely evening.
You too. Take care, my friend.
Take care.
All righty. It's sad, dude. Hard to be Andy. Right? But that's life. Don't run it. Like, this is the thing. Like, sometimes we fall in love. And then we think, okay, I gotta change. Right? Personal growth. I gotta learn to be better. I gotta learn to be less stupid. Not fall in love with the wrong person. And so sometimes what we do is we turn our heart to stone. Because that's smarter. We're not gonna let ourselves fall in love. And you're right, it is smarter. But I don't know how to say this. All aboard the dumbass train. Let's go. Because that's life. Should you grow as a person? Sure. Should you get better? Absolutely. But all aboard the dumbass train. Let's go. Because that's what life is. Like, it's not about being the smartest. It's about being a brilliant fool. Choo Choo is right. We're 30 minutes over. So, huge props. Appreciate the courage of everyone who called in today. You know? I think we heard a lot of good stuff. It's hard being real with the internet. Really hard. I'm grateful to everyone who called in today because, you know, we all learned so much. Like, I'm pretty sure that each and every one of those callers has helped hundreds, if not thousands, or will help thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. You know, in a very practical sense, we've got this is why we had the Right in the Fields event, right? So we got to, like, get into the fields, right? Today was, like, right in the fields. And we're going to stop running away from that. We're going to jump right in. We're going to teach y'all how to swim a little bit if we can. There's only so much that we can teach, but we're going to try. Y'all are going to understand what you're feeling. We're going to stop running away from our bad feelings. We're going to embrace being a failure. We're going to embrace disappointing people. We're going to embrace setting boundaries on people. We're going to embrace love, even though it hurts and it's foolish. We're going to embrace what we feel. We're going to learn how to articulate it. We're going to improve our relationships with the people around us. Because that is the HG way. Who are we raiding, chat? Botez? All right. Botez sisters, let's go. Let's go watch some chess. We'll see y'all. I think we're having our creator group stream tomorrow, and then I think regular stream on Friday. So more of the streams is come. and we'll catch y'all tomorrow.